Hello. Good morning. We are live again with the Data Culture Office Hours. My co-host is joining in a minute. We had some confusion because next week's event will be uh, taken over by Joep and Detalina, two of our co-founders. And because of this, we initially talked about doing it this week. So that's why we had some confusion. But he'll be here soon. I have been doing a lot of fun things this week, and also seen a lot of good stuff around the internet. So I'll go and talk a little bit about these things. One of the first things that I really enjoyed is the Lex Friedman podcast had an episode with Sam Altman, and Sam Altman is the one of the leaders at OpenAI, and the Lex Friedman podcast is something I can recommend to follow. He interviewed people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk as well. And it's really interesting how he has very sharp questions that really can show you what's in these people's minds, and I really enjoy that. However, I see that somehow our LinkedIn event is not live. Is it? Oh, it is live. Oh, good. Yeah, so the Lex Friedman podcast, and Sam Altman is a guest. I've posted the link in the comments. I'll post it on LinkedIn as well. And this is quite an interesting episode because in this episode, Sam talks a bit about where he thinks all of this is going with the Gen AI world and the LLM, what they're working on. And one of the things that he talks about is making a larger and larger context window. And if you don't know what a context window is, basically a context window is when you ask a question to, for instance, ChatGPT. It doesn't just send the question to ChatGPT and then magically know an answer. Instead, when you type a question on the back end of the ChatGPT service, it enriches that question with a bunch of context and then sends it to the actual LLM. And in that way, the LLM has some context in which to understand what it is that you are actually asking. So this is quite interesting because right now, one of the popular ways of working with an LLM is called a RAG, a retrieval augmented generation. Which means that you use the context window to supply additional information. So I've just been doing this for Helixiora internal, and I have it set up that it gets context from my Google Drive. So I can ask questions to the LLM about my Google Drive. And this is quite interesting because that way my Google Drive information stays private. OpenAI in their license explain to you that or their terms and conditions explain that they don't actually use your queries to train their next model. So they go and give you answers, but don't actually do anything with the information you give them. So the context window is interesting, and I was talking to someone this week and trying to explain it in a very simple way. And the simple way is, let's say you have a data-related question as a customer. When you explain it to me or to anyone else at Helixiora, you don't go and tell me the entire life story of your company, including the problem, and I need to use that context. No, you tell me exactly what I need to know, and based on how well you tell me what I need to know, I can give you an accurate answer. So if you give me the right context, I will give you a very accurate answer. If you give me the wrong context or not enough context, or you tell me too much, I won't be able to give you a good answer. But back to this podcast, Sam Altman talks about making this context window larger and larger. Right now, it's relatively limited, at least for OpenAI. And that means that if you have, for instance, a long conversation with ChatGPT, in every request it sends everything in that current conversation as context. So everything you've talked about until then is a context for the next question. That's why it knows follow-up questions. And so making that context window larger does a bunch of things, and I think this is quite interesting because the larger the context window gets, the more information you can put into it, so that the LLM has more context for giving you accurate results. And this is interesting because then the question becomes, in this context, do you want to put more and more information? Is that economical? Does it make sense? Let's say that I could put my entire Google Drive in the context of every question to the LLM. Does that make sense? I don't think so. I think that means that you would have too much processing going on. It's much better to have an algorithm that already extracts relevant information from my Google Drive and supplies that as the context. So I think there's quite a few interesting things happening in that space. Colin,
However, if you actually consider full text search plus k-nearest neighbor search and vector databases on your RAG side, you may actually find that you're going to improve the full text search of your entire Google Drive. And to be fair, Google Drive search is actually pretty janky compared to many other searches, so lots to be done. And also, with regards to these context windows being larger, I want to remind you that even Google is actually already giving you a much larger context window for Gemini, much
yeah,
larger.
yeah. So they have, I think it's 1 million tokens, 2 million.
It's like 1 million tokens.
Yeah, and a token is a character, so 1 million tokens is a lot. But
So
the
you,
results,
you can consider that like the tokens, if you from a database standpoint, is like what is your largest query size, right? So, and it's actually pretty damn good. Not that they've rolled it out to everybody, and they've severely crippled it, of course, thanks to I don't know being
Google.
yeah.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate, right? Because the context window there is really cool, but they've crippled the actual results, the post processing, I think, from the LLM, and that makes it so that it's nearly unusable. But I think that OpenAI and the others are also moving into longer context windows. And one of the other things that at least I recently learned, because I'm diving into this stuff, is that one of the key pieces is actually the embedding. And embedding, basically what it does is if you supply a document to a vector database to store there the context of this text, it runs it through an embedding algorithm that tries to understand the text and then put it into vectors so that it can be stored in the vector database. And the quality of this embedding algorithm is extremely important to the results that you will get back from the vector database if you ask it a question. I think that lots of work can be done on those embeddings as well, because right now this is quite, it all works in a quite ghetto way where it's difficult to to really know how to feed the information to which embedding model. And I think there's quite a bit of room for improvement. So yeah, I think interesting things happening into the future.
Maybe the most interesting thing that we've seen is even better open source model literally just dropped yesterday/today from data. That's an open source model as well. Did you see this?
Which one?
Hang on, let me just find it for you.
In the meantime, one of the things that
It's from Databricks,
oh yeah,
DBRX.
DBRX. Yeah, I saw an announcement. I didn't see the actual thing yet.
Yeah, it's too early for us to actually look at or evaluate. I think that's the biggest thing we're having is every week there's a new model dropping. It's in fact things change every day.
Yeah. And so I think it's not about each individual model. I think it's about following the trend. And when you hear the same thing number of times, number of different people that tell you, "Hey, this model is actually quite good," that's when I get activated to go and look into it. Because if I have to look into every model, I just run it, become a full-time model reviewer.
This is what I've been doing, and like I said, I think the best deal in town now is Perplexity. $20 a month or $200 a year. They start plugging in various models, and you can tune. It's kind of amazing. I might actually stop subscribing to ChatGPT because of Perplexity.ai.
Nice. And are they using their own LLM? I think you showed it in the last live stream,
Yeah,
right?
they've got their own LLM. They've got OpenAI. They've got plenty of models you can actually specify to choose from, except say Google's Gemini model.
Nice. And did you check if it has a LangChain implementation?
I'll ask Perplexity. How about that?
Yeah, it does. Actually, yeah. So LangChain is at the moment a framework. I'm a little bit worried. Maybe we talk a bit about LangChain. LangChain is started as a framework, a Python framework, to talk to LLMs and to do the RAG stuff and a whole bunch of other things. And then it caught on and became quite popular, and it's open source. But now LangChain formed a company, and that company actually got a ton of investment. And so you start to see that a bunch of services are being built on top of LangChain, on top of the framework, and they're trying to push those also into the open source products. And I'm a little bit worried about what will happen once we are a little bit further down the line, because investor-backed businesses generally have a tendency to go a little sideways over time, simply because
You got to turn money, expectations versus reality.
Yeah, so I'm worried about what will happen there over time. But yeah, this is they just did a Series A by Sequoia, or led by Sequoia, 25 million investment, and I'm worried that the investment part will ruin the actual LangChain framework, because it's actually quite good. So yeah, this is a
So I think here's the bonus, right? This is very much like what we were looking at with Dion as well. I think open source leads the way. When you've open sourced most of your core, and you want to eventually become open core or have some kind of cloud related product, I think we're still okay if people will take the mantle. It's exactly what's happening with Redis as well. People will take the mantle when they find it's important enough for them to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only way to make it sustainable over time is either open core, so it's only two ways: open core or a foundation type of setup. But then the foundation stuff is a little tricky, and um, yeah, comes with a lot of overhead.
I think, yeah, from an AI standpoint, as long as they've open source the main bits, I think we are actually okay. I mean, we ourselves said we were planning to contribute to LangChain potentially, or the answer.
Yeah, I'm using it heavily and quite happy. It's not all good. So some stuff is just set up weird, where you can see that you're running into use cases that nobody's run into that are fairly standard. For me, this is interesting. I was working with the Google Drive stuff, and the Google Drive loader in LangChain expects to read its config from a config file where I wanted to pass it in a Google OAuth credentials object. And this seems like a super common thing to do, but LangChain doesn't support it yet. So you have to either go and implement it and do a pull request, or wait or do a workaround. So I chose the workaround because I'm not confident enough in my Python skills to actually go and do a contribution to LangChain.
Why don't you just get Copilot to review?
Yeah, but
I tried using Copilot to review your code the other day. It was an experience.
I can imagine. Yeah, yeah. I have used Copilot to do refactoring. That works actually quite well. So you can select a whole bunch of Python code and say, make this into a function. And that works quite well. But yeah, very advanced stuff like how to structure the logic. I don't think that we are yet at a place where this is easy to do for the coding LLMs. Work in progress.
I have a non-AI topic that might be interesting for us, considering we
Good.
were talking
Data
about.
topics also.
It, it's not quite data topics, but it might have a tangent to it. But it also has a bit of an AI play to it. I don't know if you read that Red Hat is actually has hired McKinsey to basically streamline the jobs of the tech people, and McKinsey believes with AI, you can 10x your developer productivity. So I've placed them in the chat. I don't know if it'll work. Do you see the link?
Yeah, I have a link here. Let me see. Save one. Yeah, the register. Yeah. Let me drop it here in the.
So I feel like this is actually quite interesting overall because one, I've always said that if your company ends up hiring a consulting firm, nothing good comes out of it.
Unless it's us.
Uh, unless it's us, of course. I guess what I was going for was if you were basically hiring BCG, Bain, or McKinsey, something's gone wrong,
Yeah.
and while that's not the case yet, we do know that Red Hat has tried very hard to get the community to pay more, right? So they've actually sort of disabled CentOS builds by having CentOS Stream, and the others are finding it much harder to rebuild an OS, which is why you see SUSE and Oracle step up. And I think in the cloud, I don't know about you, but I feel like Ubuntu might have actually won that race to some extent. So it's very interesting that IBM has found a way not they're finding it much harder to extract money, I think, from the people that use Red Hat, and they don't know what else to do. But now they've also decided they should maybe 10x their engineers.
Yeah, I don't think it 10x is. It's been interesting because I haven't coded for a long time, and now I've been coding on this proof of concept that's going really well. And 100%, I'm going faster and better because of Copilot and ChatGPT, but it still requires my brain for the larger logical pieces. And if I ask the right questions with the things that are in my mind, I get actually really good responses. But it's not going to alert you, hey, keep an eye on thing XYZ that will bite you in the ass. That's my experience that teaches me to do that. So yeah, I think there's
Yeah,
still
I
some.
personally also find errors if I ask it to think again, it may give me a different answer. And
Yeah,
it may, and upon thinking again, it gives me maybe the correct answer, which is kind of weird. But I guess my point here was more, I don't know if AI will 10x the engineers, but if we're talking about open source and things going sour, this is another example where we have to expect the open source world to start picking up pieces of what Red Hat may be dropping, because they may not be dropping things for the sake of dropping it. They may be dropping it because consultants said this is not going to give you 10x return on revenue.
yeah.
And we depend a lot on the Red Hat in the open source world actually.
Yeah, this is true. Uh, did you, speaking of big firms making strange choices, did you see that Ethos Origin is in trouble? Does that name ring a bell to you? It's a really big name here in the Netherlands.
Yes, it does. It does ring a bell. Absolutely.
It's
They're a
also
big
a large,
IT firm.
yeah, big IT firm, and they are in financial trouble. And the interesting part is that lots and lots of government contracts, government IT projects are not just given to them, but also they are doing a lot of managed services where they actually own and run the systems that have our government's data on them. So now I was reading that
But
quite.
they're actually a French company, or not a Dutch one.
Yeah, they're a French company. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
nobody knows how this came to be, but they are running a bunch of core systems for Dutch government agencies that are now all frantically scrambling to get their data back because this company might just go out of business overnight.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, but the writing has been kind of on the wall. I think sometime in October last year, I think I read about ATOS in the FT about how they've got a big rescue mission going on, and it's just been, I guess, getting from bad to worse.
Yeah.
But did anything change recently besides this link that you posted? Debt restructuring plan. I guess that should be okay. It could be a lot worse.
They have a 5 billion euro debt.
Yeah.
Jesus.
See, one of the bankruptcy laws, like in Europe, or at least in France, like in America, you file Chapter 11, you restructure your debt, you decide to pay your creditors cents on the dollar or not pay them at all, and then
Yeah.
you can come back stronger. So, what is it like in France? I wonder.
More difficult, but there's government bailouts for bullshit like this. So very often, when the company is large enough and the impact on society is large enough, the government steps in and buys out some of the debt to make sure that they don't lose all these jobs at once. It's happened here in the Netherlands also with a couple of companies, and
Socialism at work. I love it.
it's I'm very. I I'm not a fan of keeping things alive that shouldn't technically be alive because they're not actually financially viable. Like that seems like a bad idea. Maybe just get your act.
I fully agree. Like that's how you get younger players to come up and be more efficient. It sounds like a lot of ATOS folk probably end up spending a little bit of time on the golf course.
Yeah, you know what happens? The government here, at least, says things like, and even the EU says this. Oh, we want smaller companies to bid for our tenders, and then you need 2 people full time for a month to even complete the tender documents, which is entirely unviable if you're a small company below, let's say, 20 FTE. You're not going to do that because you're most likely going to lose anyway to the ethos people in this world. And we had this once with an EU tender with my previous company. They said, "Oh yeah, we really want small companies like yourself to join this bid." And so we look at the bid requirements. And one of the hard criteria was, I think it was 20 million euros revenue. Like, okay, how do you expect small companies to have 20 million revenue? You're looking at least 100, 200 people company. Oh yeah. We didn't really think about that. Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, I think that's also why these requirements are completely ridiculous. I think we ourselves are facing some ridiculous requirements from time to time, but it doesn't make much sense. Like you cut out the smaller player who are probably more nimble, more agile, and they actually know what they're doing with newer stuff
Yeah,
with less overhead.
it is what it is, I guess.
So I wonder if people would be excited to read up about some of the research that we've been doing. Uh, I've spoken to a marketing person, Candice, last week. Actually, was it this week or last week? I forgot. Regardless, we're planning to start publishing more stuff on the blog, and of course, you will post it to various places like LinkedIn, Reddit, and other places. So I wonder if people would be more interested to see our raw research.
Yeah. I think so. I get good. Unfortunately, my best engagement is on LinkedIn. It's good because it gets people to read things. It's not so great because it very quickly disappears in the time bin of history. So we'll probably start posting more on our blog on our website so that it's more easily findable over time as well. But this is a project, one of many projects. I read a very interesting article this week. Maybe I should post it here about being an engineer in a startup and what that's like and what you should expect as an engineer. And I thought that's actually not applying just to engineers. So one of the things it said, which I've always thought of it that way, startups kind of need to find their product market fit, whatever that is, and until they do, they're basically 2 steps away from dying. And depending on the funding, 2 steps can be weeks, months, or years. But you're fighting inevitable death unless you can find the revenue to or the investment, if that's your route, to counter going out of business. And with that comes a lot of chaos, but also a lot of possibilities and opportunities. And one of the reasons why startups can go faster is because they don't have the luxury to do things in a time-consuming fashion. So they have to cut corners to do things faster, and that's actually okay. So for this specific piece, also talked about engineering and building up technical depth in the beginning, and how that is actually okay. Because once you find your product market fit, you will have time to redo things later on once you get to that stage. I thought it was a real interesting article. Let me see if I can find it.
I think it's a case of do or die, right? It's okay to cut corners if you get a working demo and then you work on fixing things later. I mean, this is why we have traditionally also had test engineers, QA engineers, and I think this is one of the things I learned from MySQL is we actually had maintenance engineers, which is basically your job was to just maintain the code. We write enough good test cases, etc. But maintenance is fixing boring bugs. And you don't have to work on new features, just fix bugs.
No. Yeah, this is really interesting because we're building some stuff internally, and there also the question is what do we actually go and use. And right now, we were trying to do AWS serverless, etc., with a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And then we're like, actually, we're building an MVP, so maybe we should just do a Python Flask app that runs locally and can show people what it needs to do. And then if we decide to go forward with that, then we can always implement more robust features, because actually most of the functionality is not hidden in the Flask app, but it's hidden in the libraries that we are writing for the Flask app to use. And if you structure your logic correctly, then it doesn't matter that much to use Flask right now, and you can just upgrade to using serverless later on.
Yeah,
I posted.
not fully convinced that we want serverless all the time either, frankly.
Yeah, with this kind of stuff, it's interesting because we're potentially needing to process a lot of data that can actually be processed in parallel. And one of the very big strengths of serverless is that if you chain together different processing units of lambdas with SQS, then you can start to parallel process, and you're not bound by any infrastructural challenges. It's all AWS's problem, and this can be quite powerful in the long run. But we are not there yet, so it doesn't make sense to do that right now. I posted the link to the pragmatic engineer. That's a good it's a good newsletter to follow as well. That guy is a engineer who's writing a newsletter that's quite useful. So it's kind of on the divide between tech and business, and lots of startup related stuff as well. So
Yeah,
really enjoy.
this is a pretty long one, huh? But yeah, worth reading.
Yeah.
I will have to digest this later.
Yeah.
Do you pay for this, by the way?
No, I don't.
Because it does say something like, well, there's a third part that is something you pay for. Strange.
Yeah. No, there. I get the newsletter, and then you get excerpts and these kind of things you can still read. So I guess if you pay, you get more premium content as well. That is what it is. But if I paid every source that I'm using, then I need how to say that, a nighttime job to be able to support all of the things that I can get information from. So I
Ah, but
try.
it's paying gives you the alpha.
Yeah, I try to pay for the things that are really of consistent value to me. But, I used to, back 20 years ago, I used to try and pay for nothing and do everything for free. And then I was in many discussions with a bunch of other, back then I was a full-time developer. I was talking to other developers, and one of my manager, I think it was my manager, he said, yeah, look at it this way. I understand that you want to do things for free if you can, but look at it this way. Someone spent time and effort on that. And if you're then using it for free, and you're getting lots of value out of it, don't you think that if you were the one creating all that value, you'd want to be appreciated by getting some monetary contribution? That actually makes sense. So since then, I try to pay for the things that are really giving me value.
Yeah, I fully agree. I'm a big proponent of paying. Reading even some of the business newspapers that I read gives much good value. Also, I think having the blog would be useful. It's just like exactly what we talked about just now. With regards to Metals Origin, I actually read about it in a financial newspaper because there was a financial angle to it. I mean, they are kind of bankrupt. And
Yeah.
yesterday you mentioned another takeover offer for MariaDB Corporation, and I had seen that in the Wall Street Journal as well. So it's kind of interesting. that you actually find paying is not so such a bad thing.
It's really sad. I saw that Progress is trying to acquire the company, and I think Progress is also the company that acquired Puppet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but you see, what is maybe more interesting is they might not be able to acquire the company, mostly because Progress Software may not be able to make said acquisition largely because there's a deal with Monty and Runa Capital, which is why the previous company also has an offer dangling, but nothing much has changed or happened. And it's
Mm.
worth also noting that MariaDB had elected a CEO after they had gotten rid of Michael Howard. But that CEO is also his term is also expiring at the end of May. So a lot of things can change very fast.
And none of that has anything to do with the technology, and none of that is good for the technology, because all I'm hearing is
No,
don't choose MariaDB right now, because fuck knows where this is by the end of the year.
yeah, absolutely. I think all this really just doubles down the fact that people are moving towards Postgres. So the other thing that is very clear from the MySQL world is MySQL is making a lot of features inside of the cloud variant only, including things like a vector database. So uh, I suspect that this is again more people doubling down on Postgres. And you're seeing because where else do you go for a vector database, for example, or where else do you go where there's lots of community? Postgres is truly having its day.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm using Pinecone now for a vector database, and quite happy with that as well. And now I know a little bit more about what to expect from a vector database and what features I'm looking for. So I'll give PG Vector a spin sometime soon, and see
Yeah,
what.
Pinecone, by the way, is also fun, which is why I was always saying go PG Vector eventually. But yes, start with Pinecone.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of Postgres, a bit of sad news. Someone I've known for a very long time, Simon Riggs, passed away yesterday. Actually, he's been a Postgres contributor for probably over 20 years. Second quadrant to UDB and so on. So big loss in the Postgres world.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I couldn't quickly figure out is I really like in Pinecone you have metadata with every record that is quite useful, and I couldn't find whether this exists in PG Vector.
Oh, feel free to ask. I will.
Yeah, yeah, I need to do a bit of research on how this works at the moment. Um, because in Pinecone, one of the things you do is you store the vector, but then you also in the metadata store the document, the title of the document that it came from, the original text, and when it was uploaded. And this allows you to, and you can add your own metadata to it as well, up to 40 kilobytes. And this allows you to do a bunch of fancy stuff, because later on you can query based on the metadata if you want to, and not just on the vectors themselves. So this is quite nice.
Much exciting times ahead for everybody.
It is true. I'm really enjoying it.
Even this time next week, you don't know what will drop in the AI world. And I think that's the biggest challenge. AI feels very much like you're some kind of crypto trader, or that because Wall Street at least it sleeps, right? The market closes, you have free market, aftermarket, but with like crypto or AI, you're just getting drops every moment.
That's true. I think that it's a little different. It feels more like the early days of the internet, where it was clear that it was something huge and not going anywhere, but it wasn't exactly clear yet how things were going to develop. And trust was very low. So if you were in like 96 and you told someone that you bought something online, they would tell you you're absolutely crazy and you lost your money and there's no way that's going to ever work. And 20 years later, we are annoyed if a company doesn't have a website where I can order stuff online. So I think it really changed over time. And it feels like AI is in that, or Gen AI is in that space where that field only started to become publicly gain public awareness for the general public November 2022. So we're barely a year and a half down the line, and there is still a lot of uncertainty and fear. Well, FUD actually, and we need to see how this will develop in the next weeks and months and years ahead. But if I've learned anything, it is good to be in these kind of spaces in the first couple of years, because now it feels like everything is chaos. But in a couple of years from now, you'll realize that you've actually been around for a while and learn some good things and can say sensible things about all of this.
Yeah, that's also very true.
I'm excited about the future. Let's see. Shall we call it a day?
Yes, let's do that.
All
Look
right.
forward to
So
our writing probably in the next week or two, then, I guess.
yes, and next week we have the week off because you and me,
It's
because
Easter. Oh yeah, well, this is something else. Yes.
yeah, because Lena and Joep are taking over the office hours, so that should
Right.
be good.
Yeah. So I guess a happy egg holiday for everybody.
Happy Egg Holiday, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a good
Ciao.
day. Bye.